Today, March 11th, we see the moon in void of course between Leo and Virgo, forming a square aspect with Uranus, which is sitting in void of course between Taurus and Gemini. We also see this powerful alignment, this powerful conjunction in Aries of Mercury and Venus in retrograde motion. The moon will sit in void of course for most of today before it shifts into Virgo in the early hours of Wednesday morning, Tuesday night. And we're getting ready for this full moon energy. The moon is standing in its full moon phase, with it peaking on the 13th with the total lunar eclipse in Virgo. So the moon is standing in the accumulation of its power. It is standing in its near full illumination, in void of course, uninfluenced by any zodiac energies, and really representing these inner aspects of ourself, our emotional intuitive being, as it is uninfluenced by any other energies around us, in its purity, in its raw form. Void, of course, is a very natural process of all the planetary movements as they move between zodiac signs, as they kind of sit on what was once known the cusp of these planetary energies. Some see this as inhabiting both zodiac energies, but personally, I feel like the void, of course, is where it stands uninfluenced, where it stands in its power, allowing the planetary energies to refresh themselves in their representations, their characters, their attributes, before they move into the next influence of zodiac energy. So the moon standing in near full illumination in its power is really a sign for us to illuminate our inner world and allow us to see how our inner world is guiding us. Square aspects are aspects of challenge, where we're asked to see both sides of the stories, where we're asked to understand two different energies to enable us to come to a compromise and turn a corner. These aspects are tense and challenging because they ask us to make a decision. They ask us to make a choice. They ask us to see the things that maybe we don't want to see, and really encourage us to step into more difficult energies. More difficult energies are necessary as they are what bring us into understanding. They are what bring things into the light, and they are what encourage us to make choices. Sometimes we won't make choices or decisions unless we're pushed. So square aspects are kind of like that push towards decision making, where the universe is saying, look at both these things, look at how they can come together, and look at the choices you have. From the choices that you have, now it's your choice to make which decision you're going to act on and to take those actions forward. It's not a decision or a choice if you don't act on it. It's just another thought in your head. So the moon standing in its near full illumination in this void of course energy, forming this square aspect with Uranus, the planet of change, the planet of freedom, the planet of collective consciousness. It is that energy of knowing yourself, knowing the cycles that we work through, knowing that it is important to be individual, to be your authentic self, to be your ever-changing self. And to be authentic, you need to understand that you change. So this square aspect between the moon and Uranus is really asking us to make the changes that we need to allow our inner self to be reflected back into the world. The moon is a reflection of how much sunlight is hitting it. The moon is always there in fullness, but we can only see the surface area of the moon that is reflected by the sun, created by the angles that the sun and moon are to each other in their annual cycle. So this alignment of the moon coming into its peak energy, into its peak illumination, squaring with Uranus, this very powerful energy of change, standing in void of course, is a very powerful aspect for us to start our day with, particularly with the conjunction of Mercury and Venus that is happening today. So it is asking us to look at the changes that we need to make, and from those changes and choices to act in ways that illuminate our inner self to the world, that allow us to stand in our authenticity, allow us to see the changes that we have been making as we open up to this eclipse season, as we shift into the energies of transformation. This is really enabling us to take those transformations and allow them to empower us in our decision making, to empower us in our ability to perceive what is around us, to perceive our choices, and to make informed decisions by looking at those choices and how they can benefit us in our changes, benefit us in our cycles, and benefit us in our movements forward. Now, the power aspect of the day is this conjunction between Mercury and Venus retrograde in the sign of Aries. Mercury is getting ready to move into its retrograde motion. It retrogrades on the 14th, right after the moon peaks in its fullness, right after we enter eclipse season, right after we shift into our newest timeline, our newest form of being. So this alignment of Mercury and Venus is really going to pull these retrograde energies into our being as social planets, as personal planets, As personal planets, they are going to allow us to feel things personally. They're working at a level that is individual to our own. So the retrograde of these planets is really going to allow us to look at our inner functioning, to review, to reassess, and to establish where we want to make changes, where we want to bring things to light, where we want to review the processes we're going through, and to release those things that are no longer serving. Retrograde periods are movements through the underworld, through the subconscious, through the hidden aspects of our being. The things that we have pushed down within us to avoid come to light during our retrograde periods, and they come to light not to hurt us, but to allow us to move through that energy and to release those things we are holding within. For when you hide things within, they are going to taint you. They are going to bring fears to you. They're going to draw the things you don't want to yourself, for you are not dealing with those hidden aspects of being. So retrogrades are very powerful times that allow us to move through these energies, bring things to the surface, and to enable us to assess where we need to make changes in order for us to stand in our power. Planetary bodies are all about guiding us into our power, guiding us into our own, allowing us to see the cycles that we work through. All these planetary bodies move in cycles and allow us to work through the cycles, to work through our journey, and to step into our power as we live our life. Now, Mercury is the planet of communication. It is the messages that we give and receive. It is our ability to understand and learn things. It is our ability to then communicate those things that we understand and learn into clear forms for others to understand the messages that we give. It also represents the stories that we tell, the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves in the world, and the story that we tell the world about ourselves in the world. Venus is the planet of unconditional love and acceptance. It is connected to the relationships we hold in all of its forms, including the relationship we hold with ourself and the relationship we hold with things. It is about values. It is about the things that we value, the things that we see as unvaluable, and how those aspects and those decisions that we make influence the way that we turn up with love, influence the way that we act within our relationships and the things that we give. So this alignment of Mercury and Venus in Aries is allowing us to align our communication, align our messages, align our storytelling with this place of inner love, this place of our inner values. Because retrogrades are inner motion, they're allowing us to really connect with our inner self, to connect with our truest form of being, to connect with those hidden aspects of ourself that influence the way that we walk through this world. So this alignment of Mercury and Venus is telling us to get behind our messages, to make sure the messages that we are giving to others, the ways that we are communicating in our relationships, the ways that we are giving love within our relationships are in alignment with ourself. Now, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It is the cardinal fire sign. It is about the energies of I am. It is about taking things and initiating them for the good of the self. So this alignment in Aries is very powerful for our inner work, as it allows us to align within ourself, to do things for ourself and from ourself, allowing us to communicate our messages in loving forms to ourselves. And when we communicate with ourselves openly and with clarity, we are able to communicate and give that message out to the world. Conjunctions are energies of alignment. It is bringing the planetary energies together, getting them on the same page so that they can fly forward, so they can align and influence us together and work in unity. So this conjunction of the messages that we give, the stories that we tell, the ways that we communicate, and our ideas and thoughts, as Mercury is connected to the mind, with our heart center, with the ways that we love, with the relationships we hold, with the ways that we turn up. Now, the relationships we hold are also the relationship we have with the outside world. So it's going to allow us to see the messages that we are bringing from the outside world and how they are influencing our inner world, enabling us to start new cycles. Aries, as the first sign of the zodiac, is about beginning new cycles. It is about initiating things into being. It is the liminal energy that comes after the closure of the cycles we have worked through and the beginning of something new. So this conjunction right before the full moon in Virgo, this shift into our eclipse seasons of this year, and this energy of transformation is really going to allow us to see where we need to initiate new beginnings in our relationships, in our ways that we are giving love, in the ways that we seek things, in the communities that we hold, and enabling us to give our message with clarity, allowing us to communicate in all our forms, enabling us to give what we need to give of the self, but from a place of authenticity. It is about taking the ideas and thought forms we have of the self and expressing them and sharing them with others to create these connections with other people that are going to enable us to be ourselves, to give of ourselves, to connect with others, to express ourselves, and to bring this energy of co-creation into the world, creating from a place that is in alignment with our truest form of self. Extremely beautiful aspects for us to be standing in that is going to let us get behind our message, to get behind ourself, and to ground in our heart center, ground in our ability to give and receive love, ground in the gratitude that we have for the cycles that we are working through, and really give us this energy to initiate something new. We also see Saturn in Pisces in its closest point to us in its cycle. Now, this is going to be important as the moon aligns with Saturn tomorrow, really initiating this reflection of boundaries in our outer self that are going to set us up for this energy of the full moon. And we're going to have the sun in alignment with Saturn as it opposes the moon in Virgo as we shift into this eclipse cycle, as we see this total lunar eclipse. So the closeness of Saturn today is going to be asking us where we can be flexible in the routines and structures that we hold, and really allow us to see where we need to release things. Full moon energy is about release and renewal. So what do you need to release from your structures? What do you really need to release from your patterns that are going to enable you to step into this loving energy of co-creation, of communication, of new cycles, of this ability to really give of your personal self, to give from those deeper levels of our being that are going to allow us to bring our changes out into the world, to enable us to communicate the changes that we have been working towards, those inner changes that are going to be a reflection in the outside world as we step into our newest cycle of self, as we step into the waning cycle in a couple days, as we allow these energies of abundance, accumulation to peak, and really allow us to release the stories that are no longer guiding us, release the love that is no longer supporting us, and to release those values that are dragging us down, to see that some things are not as important as we give them. And by releasing this control on those values, we can accept them more, we can have gratitude for what we have. And by communicating in these ways, we are able to give unconditional love to the universe and initiate these new cycles that are going to enable us to build new routines, build new patterns, and to review where we stand as we shift into the energies of transformation. You can transform and change yourself at any stage. So take some time today to reflect on the stories you are telling. Are the stories you are telling coming from a loving place? Are they allowing you to begin anew? Are they allowing you to look after yourself? Are they allowing you to move into the momentum of forward movement and acting towards your desires? Or are they holding you back from this whole process? Mercury is about to go retrograde, is going to turn within. So those aspects that are holding you back are going to come to light. So today, allow yourself to accept that by seeing the darker aspects of ourselves, we're able to communicate in new forms. We're able to love in new forms. And we're able to love ourselves in our wholeness. For our darkness is what brings us the light. It is what brings us balance. We need both aspects. We need the polarity and the duality that exists in the darkness and the lightness to enable us to love and to tell our story in new and profound ways.